This is an experimental project trying to explore various alchemical currents that affect our life every day. Welcome. Today let's talk about how different people can disbalance or affect how our reality is experienced by us. So, every person has a set of experiences through which they perceive reality, and it's truly unique and unrecreatable. And when we align ourselves with different types of people throughout our journey, we find that we often pick up certain behaviors or pick up certain habits from the people we surround ourselves with. Often this is also experienced when people have varying rhythms for reality and how fast they experience reality. So by being around people who experience it faster or slower, you slowly start attuning to the way these people experience. It's not uncommon for people to go abroad on a trip, for example to some southern side of Italy, and notice that the lifestyle in the town of a small village is very, very different than that of a city they're coming from. And their experience tends to slow down, days tend to stretch out, and there's nowhere to hurry. And vice versa, when you go to a big city, life is usually more sped up. People are usually more in a hurry, and we start to align ourselves and mimic those experiences and recreate those rhythms in our life. So essentially, how we experience reality is very often attuned to our environment and the people around us. However, life rhythms are only one dimension of how other people can inflict themselves on our reality experience. There's also various habits, various behaviors, various perceptions. If you hang out with people who tend to notice little details and point them out loud and constantly see miracles around them, you get predisposed to expecting to see those miracles in your reality, and that starts to be how you focus your attention. But when you're with people who, even if not explicitly, have behaviors that are detrimental to themselves or to the people around them, or tend to put people in a position when they behave a certain way, you start subconsciously aligning yourself to those behaviors, even if you would never consciously choose that for yourself. This becomes important when we start creating reality world loops, where multiple actors are pushing other people to remain in a certain position or a certain role. And when a group of people that has similar perspectives on life gathers, the solidity of the reality that they are projecting tends to become stronger. So when somebody new enters into that world loop and is prescribed a position or a role, the solidity of that reality feels significantly heavier than what the person alone could create. As social animals, we naturally fall into something known as a gestalt, where different people have a non-verbal agreement of how reality is going to lay out, and non-verbally prescribe different roles and positionings to different members of that group. And forgetting that this is a self-prescribed choice could feel very pressuring to people who are part of this, or forgot that there is an exit for this, that in order for this gestalt to function, you have to assume and agree to the role that you were prescribed. I think it was a Sufi saying, you can only ride on somebody who agrees to carry you. So remember that carrying whatever you chose to carry was your choice in the first place. You can spot these reality tunnels that you're participating in by a sensation of feeling trapped and that way you know that you feel trapped in a certain role or a certain position that was imposed to you, and you forgot that you have the autonomy over the decision of whether you're going to serve that role or not. And often we feel that those duties are upheld by external concepts like responsibility or duty, or something along the lines of giving the locus of control to something external that is not coming from you or was your decision, and is hence a byproduct of an earlier value that you feel like you have to be aligned with. This is when it's a good time to recognize that this, whatever model that you are participating in with another person or with a set of people, is something you chose and defined and agreed to. So despite the expectation from the other person or other people that you're going to fulfill this role, there is ultimately always a choice to talk about it with the other people, acknowledge that you no longer feel like this position serves you, and try to redefine it if it feels restrictive, or withdraw in the first place. That way you remind yourself that you actually are the master and the person who chooses various situations that you're going to be engaged with in different reality tunnels, and that it's not that they dictate to you, it's that you chose to engage in them. These role positionings often come from something known as the drama triangle, where we align ourselves with certain societal roles. It can be the predator, it can be the victim, or it could be the savior. So when we see somebody being a victim or a predator, we might be feeling like we have to step in, and that way we create this structure where that dynamic is reinforced. Or when somebody comes over and starts feeling like a victim and positioning themselves as a victim, some people might experience the sensation that this is somebody who is chronically a victim, and you can engage either as a savior or as a predator in relation to that person. So that way, those victims tend to invite future structures that put them in a position that they are presenting, which is feeling victimized, and attract those who will fulfill that in their reality. This becomes a problem when those types of people feel that they want to exit the role of a victim, but all of their current relationships have been built on the foundation that this person plays the role of a victim, and other people have an opportunity to become a savior or a predator in relation to this person. So their environment holds them in that position because they have conditioned themselves through constant communication that this is the type of relationship that they desire to have with other people. It's not uncommon for these positionings to come from habits of language and interactions, and the type of words that you use when you communicate with other people to frame your sentences and formulations to appear in a way that benefits or supports the fact that you're in this role. It's like you're constantly looking for proof that you're right and this is what your reality is like. See, this supports this, and that experience supports this. But by pursuing evidence that that is the case, you're further validifying how this is going to affect your life and how you're putting yourself into that role. So it is very often hard to say goodbye to certain roles that you played in society and recondition yourself to no longer be a part of structures that reinforce that positioning. The role you will have for your parents, for your grandparents, for your partners, for your work environment will always be formulated in a certain manner, and There's only so much you can do to adjust certain fixated positions and how you appear, and often people become upset when you break the role that they were imagining you to be in, because the expectation no longer matches the reality of the situation. Ultimately, we interact with the world through games that we formulate, and to engage in those games we assume certain roles and positions that seem to serve us in the moment, or feel like they're aligned with our overall character arc or character values. So, even when we're alone, our choices with ourselves illustrate a certain pattern, and then when we engage with other people, we interact with them through certain roles and certain games. But I am recording this for people who feel like sometimes they forget that they chose to play the games that they are playing, chose the roles that they are in, and feel trapped in them. So this is meant as a reminder that you have a choice of what games you engage in. You have a choice how embedded you become in those roles, and you have a choice to leave or alter how your character is going to be perceived. And remembering that is very helpful in finding that freedom. I hope you found this helpful. You can support me by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And I thank you for joining today.